Awesome. Welcome, everybody. So you guys are probably getting tired of seeing my face today, but we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Anderson,
Oh
the man,
yes,
the
how's it
myth, the
going, Dan?
legend, Blonde Frogs, Jeremy Anderson. Jeremy, thanks for coming on for the AMA today. We also have Allie on. Allie, how you doing, buddy?
Good, Dan. How are you? Glad
Good, man. Are you getting tired of me yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, let's see. This might be a long ass AMA, so we could get tired. You could get tired of me quickly. So I just want to welcome everybody to the community. What I'd like to start out by doing is talking a little bit about Jeremy. Jeremy's been with the team almost from the
Oh
beginning.
man,
Yeah, he was
it's been a long time.
huge part of the team, and really, honestly, one of the big reasons our deterministic nodes are so awesome is because Mr. Anderson, aka Blonde Frogs, is doing the pulling the wrenches behind the scenes. So the computational network, as we envisioned it, really was kind of laid out by Jeremy. So, Jeremy, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Thanks for giving me all that support. I disagree. I worked hard, but it wasn't as big as Dan tried to make it out to be. Yeah, it's been like 2.5, almost 3 years with the team. Wow, time
Yeah.
just flies.
It does go by quick, man. It does go by
Crazy.
quick.
But yeah, so a little thing about the nodes. At first, the old folks from Zell, we had straight trash nodes forked from kind of the old Dash code, and we did have a lot of problems with them, and it wasn't deterministic, and that was the one thing that we really were striving for. So as a team, we got together, we kind of figured out what path we want to take to kind of get to this deterministic nodes on chain. So I just kind of started typing it out myself and kind of building it from scratch. And that's kind of what we launched with, because we wanted to be super simple and fast, and to be able to build on top of it. So that's kind of what we envisioned and built and deployed. And hey, seems to be working pretty well so far. We've had a couple minor hiccups, but nothing that we can't go over the bump with. So
if you're not breaking it, it ain't tech. So so all those
fix it, right?
All those node operators who want to strangle us every now and again, hey, you got a really cool opportunity, and that's to learn iterative technology, and that's really Jeremy, I disagree with you, buddy. You've been a huge part of this project from the beginning and helped guide it. And kind of the goal is with the next few AMAs, I'd like to bring on individual members of the community and the project that have worked so hard to develop this out. And Jeremy was the first logical choice because, we wouldn't be where we're at without him and his skills and his talents that he brought to the team. So Jeremy, thanks for joining us today on
Happy
the
to be here.
So we'll go ahead and get into the AMA. The way we're going to do it is we're just going to kind of bop through these questions. X4 was great enough to create a bot that accumulates questions for AMA. So when somebody goes in, if they put in plus AMA and whatever their question is, the bot will recognize it. It'll add it to the lists for the AMA, and that way we never miss a question. So it really works out good. The unfortunate part is we've got like 26 questions and they're all damn good questions. So let's get right into it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is well, Allie, I'll just let you go ahead and read the question, and then we'll go ahead and expand on it.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep, sound good.
Perfect. All right. So let's start with the first question. So the first question is, in Zelcore, why the quick swap exchanges are so limited and cost of exchanges are so expensive? Do you have any solutions for that?
That is a great question.
Yeah,
Ben,
it is.
It
is a good question, and it's one that and I think Jeremy would agree. We see this quite often in the crypto spaces. Especially with Zelcore, we use a lot of infrastructure that's developed by other individuals, and there's kind of what we want to do in crypto is free us from that institutional feel where there's gatekeepers all the time. The unfortunate part is there's always somebody in the middle making a cut. So it isn't us that charges the fees. It's whoever's providing the fee or providing the service. So I think as we continue to kind of keep building out the platform, we look for alternatives. And one of the alternatives that we're getting ready to launch on Cellcore, and I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder, it is a better, more developed, aggregated quick swap exchange. So I don't know what that looks like. Well, I do know what it looks like, but I can't share it quite yet. But it's going to be a lot more simplistic, a lot easier to use, and cheaper.
Hey, that's the key, right? You got to get cheaper fees.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of new users coming into the space, and they want to invest, and they might not have a lot of resources to invest, but they want to participate. So, that's a little bit of a challenge. All right, next question. If we can get something infrastructure related, maybe question number 3 would be good.
Right. So question 3 is, what insights can you share about how the team is working to create demand for Flux outside of the node ecosystem, creating demand for hosting projects other than KDA, etc.?
So Frogs, you want to talk a little bit about what really kind of how you see Flux and how, some of the things we're doing to develop outside, just not only the crypto ecosystem, but the technology stack altogether?
Oh, for sure. Every day in our team chat, we are discussing how we are going to get people to use Flux and why they should use Flux. And honestly, I think it's just mostly a thing about time. These companies that normally are pretty slow are still going to be slow. There's no reason for them to speed it up and start using these newer technologies. People are just starting to utilize Bitcoin, and it's been here for 13 or 12 years now, I think.
Yep.
So 12 or 13 years.
Wow.
It's crazy. So honestly, every day we're in chat talking about different companies that we could try to reach out to that could utilize our platform and do great things with it. And that's what we're all about. We're just trying to get growth. We're just trying to get our name noticed. And that's where we have to start. We can't just start by going to big companies that don't know about us. We have to get our name out. So please help us and talk about Flux and how cool it is, so that you never know who you're talking to. You could be talking to a CEO on the bus or whatever it is, and they could get interested. I've seen it happen.
Yeah, and it's, I think that's a great point, Jeremy. And one of the things that I pride myself on and this project on is being iterative in the fact that our technology is so new. If we were in a baseball game, we wouldn't even be to the field yet. We are literally, we have to prove our value. And a lot of times that means there are projects that are watching very closely or in partnership behind the scenes that are looking for us to develop the platform and have it stable, have it accessible, and have it easy to use. So those are some of the things we're really looking at from a business standpoint is how do we make this connective to the technology stack that they're so used to standing up an AWS server in 15 minutes or, whatever. I don't even know how long it takes to stand up an AWS server, but I'm guessing it's like 15 minutes, right? So, but we need to make that case. Why is our decentralized computational networks? Why is the node network that we built better than AWS? Well, it's simple. It's decentralized. You can't deplatform. You can't censor it. It's ran by the people that run the infrastructure. So these are all really, really compelling things. And as you alluded to, those business relationships a lot of times are in their infancy. It's the first engagement. It's the first brush that we kind of go and talk to them. But as we continue to keep growing, we're going to continue to keep those conversations developing.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
Hopefully that answers.
And they're happening. They're happening right now. So more news to come. Right.
Yep. Yeah. The weird part is we're not initiating them. So that's a good
that's
thing.
That's the best part.
Yeah. Okay, next question, Ali.
Yeah, so let's so I'll combine these two questions, so question 5 and then with question 7. So question 5 is, hi team, I want to know how much does it cost to run a Dockerized application on Flux, and what are the future plans on this topic? And then the 7th is, are there plans to deploy enterprise grade application on Zell computational network? Have you engaged with any private or public companies for this purpose? If yes, can you share any details?
Wow, that's a hell of a question.
That's a hell of 2 questions. Yeah.
Yes, whoever submitted those questions is excellent. So let's break that down because it's really 2 individual parts. So
the first one's about cost of running an Dockerized application on the Flux network. I actually don't know this. Today-ish might know this. Dan, do you happen to know how much it costs?
Well, today it's free. So
perfect.
I mean, essentially, as we continue to build this out, those projects will be picked by the smaller projects will be picked by the community to be able to stand their infrastructure up, and then we'll have a price structure that's created. It'll look a lot like your standard VPS providers. It's going to look a little bit like DigitalOcean. It's going to look a little bit like AWS. It is going to tie to the Flux asset, but it's going to settle in USD. So what we don't want to do is bring mid-sized businesses in or larger institutions in and confuse them with, how do I get computational resources? What I got to go run a node. I got to do this, do that.
Yeah.
Those particular pieces will be taken care of before they ever get there. And honestly, we're helping their requests and how they see it is how we're designing it on the backside. So we have already had a partner that reached out and said, we want to run 10 nodes. We want to run 10 nodes, and we want those nodes dedicated to our business model. How do we do that, and how do we pay for it? Well, holy shit, I don't know. Let me go figure it out. You know what I mean? So, it's going to get interesting because I think you have really 2 different worlds that you're dealing with the node structure. You have the institutional large technology stack, those high-end providers. They'll be handled in a different way than the medium to small business and or developers. They're going to have a different price point, obviously, than the large infrastructure. So
that's true.
And the second part of the question was about, Ali, what was it again?
It was about the any plans.
Enterprise. Well, ultimately that's what Flux was built for. Enterprise solutions. Now, enterprise solutions is all encompassing because you also had your mid and low tier application users as well. But Flux was created to run Airbnb on a decentralized computational network with a DAO in place so that the users can participate. I'm not saying another one, Uber, perhaps, that, it's not quite Uber. Maybe it's a ride sharing network that has an autonomous organization that's governed by the people that participate in that market. It's happening. The largest hotel chain in the entire world is Airbnb, and it's the users that are kind of running it,
and they don't own a single building.
So I think institutionally you'll start to see the legacy systems start to move, where I personally believe we have a symbiotic relationship with the centralized exchange, the centralized platforms as well. You wouldn't see a project completely leave their centralized secure infrastructure and then tap into this decentralized model, which is disruptive technology. However, you could see a harmonious combination between those 2 things working together. So, I don't think you'll ever see the end of AWS. I think it continues to keep, because there is a use case for it, the same way there's a hell of a use case for what we're doing. So hopefully that answers the question.
All right, so question 8 is kind of a long question, so let me read through it. It says, hello, I am a CTO of a tech startup. I spent $100K on AWS and operate 2 cloud platforms and client specifics. I'm really a fan of the Flux project, but really wonder how you deal with the what is it, competency, legal aspects related to the decentralization. I'm working with the global brands like L'Oreal, corporates and institutions like banks and airports, and for them, knowing when the code and the data are run is very important. They cannot accept that data are transiting through servers that are located in regions that do not comply with their standards. Example, they require that the code and data are in EU. Do you foresee some kind of regional segregation, isolation with respecting your decentralization promises? How do you envision this, as this is key to convince such actors to move to your platform?
This is probably one of the best questions I've ever received, and one of the most probing, because I think that what they're asking essentially is, have we looked at this from the legality standpoint of having these decentralized computational network running institutional based infrastructure? And the answer is yes, we have. Our goal, will we replace AWS? This goes back to the last question. There is a business model that makes sense, but as people start to develop these disruptive technologies, and the crypto sector is where you're really seeing it now. You're seeing companies that are being formed, and they want to have a decentralized model. So take, for instance, KDA and what we do with their nodes. We run institutional grade services for them in a decentralized manner. Now, if you look at L'Oreal, they probably do have specific guidelines. And yes, there would have to be some geofencing. That's why we go back to and we look at the different components of Flux, from the institutional grade infrastructure that's decentralized, and maybe there's geofencing and regulatory compliance that they have to adhere to. And then the mid and small tiers that want to run infrastructure as well. So it's not a one and done, and it's not really I always say this: I don't know what I don't know, and sometimes the legal and the legal guidance and regulatory compliance pieces, they come as you develop the platform. We ask, hey, okay, how are we going to do this? You look back to there was a case, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it essentially said, is the internet providers responsible for the content that flows across their networks? They're not. And do they do their best to make sure that nefarious content is not accessible? Yeah, sure they do. It's the same way AWS does scans on their side, and it's the same way we could tap into a technology stack on our side as well to do that. There isn't a silver bullet that I can sit here and say that we're going to be 100% decentralized and we're going to get every AWS customer. No, I think we're going to have particular projects, especially that gravitate toward our infrastructure, because we are not censorable and we can be ran on any platform. For instance, I'll give you a for instance. Parler was basically removed and deplatformed, the Parler app. Okay, whether you're
screwed over,
politics aside, don't care about politics aside. Removing that application and basically censoring those people, and at least the way I see it, is completely wrong. They did nothing other than, there's some variables to that as well, but they came out later. But the long story short is, deplatforming of any particular application, if they're not breaking the law and they're not doing something that isn't nefarious, what do we care what you run? So, that I think that we're going to continue to keep learning these pieces. And I know Trunk has baked in a lot of stuff in Flux to make sure that we don't have situations where we have content on node providers. Ultimately, the node provider is a decentralized computational network systems admin. We are not just node ops anymore. It's a lot more to it than that. So our goal is to protect those node ops as much as humanly possible. So I hope that answers your question. It probably gives you 5 more questions that spin off of that. And I really do appreciate those in-depth research questions like that. So please come back with more additional questions.
All right, so next question is, when is the release of beta web hosting? Can you provide more information on that?
When is the release of what?
The beta web hosting, the web hosting?
Beta web hosting, yeah.
Oh man, that's going to be a question for Trunk for sure. Today,
Well, I can jump in just a little bit on that, Jeremy.
Okay.
So enough to be dangerous, right? So it's already here. We have the ability to do HTTPS on the Flux network, but it is going to require the XDAO to be in place, and so that we can start to approve projects to stand up their infrastructure. If I was a betting man, I'd say you'd see your first website stood up here pretty quickly, and it's going to probably be one of ours, I would imagine. But I have partnerships with at least 3 individuals who have committed to putting their website on the infrastructure, and they're legitimate players in the space, the crypto space overall. So I think that could be really interesting, and a really interesting conversation around how we continue to spin these things up and create really a web 3.0 kind of style, where you can have these decentralized websites. I'm excited to see that.
Well, I'm kind of excited for this whole year has been kind of like super about DeFi. And the one thing that I can see about DeFi is their websites, they're hosted on a centralized platform.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, so what happens who knows if they're on AWS or DigitalOcean, if like requirements come down the line and these websites start getting taken offline from these centralized platforms, where are they going to go? Well, there's only really one place, and that's going to be a decentralized network that's running their website. So I'm hoping to see that whatever it is, any sort of website can come, but I'm excited to see if DeFi websites are like, let's stick to this decentralized finance. We want to be on a decentralized network as well. Yep. So they could come too. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And we don't know what that looks like yet. Essentially, I think creating the infrastructure and engaging the partners who are brave enough to start testing it, that's what you're going to see in the next couple months. So I'm really pumped about that. I think that overall, that could be one of the biggest adds to Flux since it's launched. Okay, next question.
All right, so what does the team think the client base of Flux OS will look like in 2 to 5 years? Specific targets that the Flux would be targeting, any specific groups specifically, individuals, crypto projects, etc.
I hope it's as big as it can get.
Mm-hmm.
Over the next 2 to 5 years, I honestly just want to. I don't want to spend a week that we're not onboarding someone else or teaching them how to get added to Flux. We want this network to grow, and we want it to grow so that we can make sure that it's tested and to make sure that we can handle high levels of load. That's the whole point of this network. And that's why the requirements for running nodes are so strict, is because we really want to be a player in the field when it comes to running your software on our network. We want to make sure it's fast and everything like that. So that's going to gather people as well. The fact that it's fast and it can achieve a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a dangerous question for me.
It is a dangerous question.
Because if you would have asked Dan 4 years ago, what are we going to see in 4 years from Flux? We would be right where we're at today. So right on the money, the roadmap, everything that we wanted, we are where we want to be. So if you ask Dan today, where do you see it in 4 years? Overnight success is the hardest thing you'll ever do. You have to create the infrastructure behind the project so that when that opportunity presents itself, that you're able to capitalize on. I think essentially, Jeremy, that's what you were saying. You're saying you have to scale it up to a point where it's ready to go when we need to turn the lights on. And I think that we're there now. We're ready. Where I see us in 4 years, I see us in a disruptive technology manner, not only in fintech, but actually in the technology sector. I see, one of the main reasons Flux was born was because I wanted to be able to carry my own electronic medical records on my own device. And I wanted it to be in the blockchain, and I want it to be decentralized. And I want to be able to provide that access to my doctors, to my care, whoever's giving care to me. And there's no reason why in technology today that isn't accessible. There's no, you can go to Amazon and you can buy anything, right? You can pick your phone up and it knows everything about you, but you can't have or be a custody or a steward of your own electronic medical records. Bullshit. We need to put the end of that. And there are other technologies out there that are right in line with that as well. So Flux will continue to scale. It will continue to develop. And when the opportunity presents itself, we'll be ready to step in to be that decentralized option for these different platforms. So, you go back a year before COVID, and would you ever believe in a million years that the majority of your meetings you're conducting via Zoom? You hardly, tech people hardly leave their house. We've seen all these disruptive technologies develop all in this short period of time because of COVID, right? So here we are today. You could see another situation, a black swan situation, where maybe a cyber attack or something that takes down a large part of AWS or somebody like that, and people are like, shit, there's got to be a better solution for this, a way to decentralize this so it's not in one place at one time, and I don't have people controlling what I can and can't do. And then Flux steps into the limelight. So I believe, from a project standpoint, we'll continue to keep growing. It took Amazon about 10 years to really hit their stride. And when Amazon was building their platform, they were building a framework. They weren't selling books. We're not selling computer power. We're selling opportunity, right? We're creating opportunity. That framework will lay out how we develop for the next 4 years and into the next 10 years. So I'm pretty excited about it. And if I work on one project, it's my baby, right? And there's a reason. You sound
excited.
Yeah, a little bit, not that much. So hopefully that answers your questions.
All right. So next question is, at the moment, I see a lot of focus on token tradability and listing. Will the focus shift towards client acquisition and retention soon in order to give the token an actual demand? And what would trigger that shift?
Well,
it's an interesting question.
The crypto market is the crypto market, and it's soup du jour. Whatever's hot today is hot today. However, there is an underlying push for real technology development. And for the very first time, you're seeing these projects that are legitimate, well-built, well-established projects start to create symbiotic relationships, and they're working together. For the very first time, you can see cross-chain development. The emphasis on the trading aspect number go up. It becomes less and less every day, as you're going to start to see some of these large players who have manipulated that they'll end up struggling because, well, one, regulation is going to catch up with them. Two, people are just going to get the shits and get dumped on. And three, they're actually going to find the real technologies that are actually developing. And that's us. So, and
to add to that, Dan, I think, like, if you look back 3 years ago, everyone was creating their own token. Everyone was creating their own cryptocurrency and trying to get it listed. And as to what Dan just said, now I don't see that many announcements of new tokens. Sure, they're still being created, but as these bigger companies are coming into the space, they're actually, again, partnering with known technologies that already have a token, and they're utilizing that token as like their main token on their platform now. Mm-hmm. And that's our goal too, is to get, to have these companies come to us and integrate our technology and use Flux as their token, because they don't want to go and create their own token and then have to manage it and do all this stuff. That's just not the space that they want to be in right now. They really are looking for partnerships. And that's why I see Flux being so relevant in this space right now, is because we are so easy to be partners with because we're just a decentralized platform that they can go and launch applications on whenever they want.
Yep.
And that's awesome.
Yeah, and I would say if you're one of the crypto fanatics that loves to see the the ongoing perpetual quantitative easing of tokens, you're in for trouble, because I think you're going to see a correction. I think you're going to see the real projects that people invest in and they see value in, they're going to start to rise to the top. Like you're already seeing it. We're already seeing it 100%.
Yeah.
And I know there's another question about DeFi in here as well. We'll get to that in a second. But, I think that we have to do is keep doing what we're doing because we're doing the right things.
Yeah.
So hopefully that answers that question.
Agreed.
So next question, Dan, is I think this has been a repeated question again, but I guess for newcomers, right, this will be a great question again to answer. So this question goes to, how does Flux intend to prevent illegal data or transactions taking place once a website, project, or company is approved on Flux OS? How would node operators be protected from illegal website content being stored on their node, for example? Are those decentralized websites going to be monitored after initially being accepted?
So, I'll tell you what I know from the 10,000-foot business view side of it, and then if Frogs has any input he can give you on the lower side of it, that's good. But this is a good one for the next week when we have the trunk one, because he would really be able to answer that, because he's kind of the back end guy on that. From a regulatory standpoint, we talked about this earlier. We are going to continue to be regulatory compliant, whatever that looks like. So yes, there is we're inherently decentralized, but we also have to keep in mind that we have to look at regulations in particular areas, and there could be there may be a situation where a particular application can't run in that area, and we have to be compliant to that, right? So we don't know what that looks like, or maybe we don't have to be compliant to it and they don't care. So, a lot of times, I always make the statement, sometimes it's better to ask for permission or for forgiveness and permission. And in this case, we want to make sure that we're legally taking care of not only the node ops, but obviously the team and everyone else, to make sure that we don't have a Silk Roads running on Flux somewhere. So,
Sure.
that's a huge piece that we are very focused on. We have legal representation, one of the best lawyers, Tim Bucher, who has been in the space since as long as I can remember, and is absolutely fantastic with regulatory compliance. So, I feel pretty secure that, we're going to meet all the needs and all the demands and change where we need to change.
And again, the majority of applications that run are fine. They're not malicious. They're not doing illegal things, like illegal, right? It depends on the country you're in, what's illegal or what's not. And I agree with you, Dan, there. And also, as we grow, right now, Dan says it's free to put your application on Flux, right? Well, as we progress, it's going to be a vote based on what the nodes want to be able to be run on the network. And as that expands, that's just going to become a decentralized voting system that says, yeah, we don't want to run your application. Okay, yeah, we do want to run your application. And if an application turns out to be not true to the nature that was voted in, the nodes can then vote to take that application down, right? And then we don't even need this. There is no stepping in because it's a decentralized platform. Mm-hmm. So it's true to nature of the decentralized network, which is awesome. So that's going to be also another mechanism for being compliant, right?
Yeah, and we alluded to these decentralized computational network administrators. Like if I want to launch something, an application, what do I usually do? Jeremy, what do? You talk to people in the know, right? You talk to other network admins, you talk to people that know. Well, what if I had a network of 3,000 systems administrators who were going to vet these projects inside and out to make sure that it didn't have anything nefarious and didn't have anything that would damage the network? Why? Because they're making money doing it, right? It's like having 3,000 people working for you and eventually 10,000 people or more. that they're all have a vested interest in the platform. So, you know, can you ever guarantee that anything is completely clean and clear and there isn't no, you can't guarantee that, because we see it in standard network infrastructure. AWS does scans for their, make sure there's not child pornography or something on their servers, and we will take the steps to make sure that we're in legal regulatory compliance, but within the guise of decentralization as well. So
yeah,
hope that answers the question, or probably create 6 more and we'll get them next time.
All right. So next question is, when you guys offer storage, will the data be encrypted like storage or unencrypted like fill? Also, will the data be broken up and stored on different nodes like storage, or stored on a single node like fill? I think it's talking about Filecoin, I guess.
Maybe Filecoin, yeah, Filecoin.
That is a great question.
Right now, the way that we sit right now, we're the data that resides. So we have a Dropbox like component that we're utilizing. It's not encrypted, right? But the end result, the end goal is to have end-to-end encryption. And I think it goes deeper than that. I think you start looking at data in motion. I think you look at data at rest. I think you look at, strategic load balancing. Where are you going to put your infrastructure? We're just now getting to the point where we're starting to look at some of these things. Encryption, obviously, if you use Zelcore, we are big fans of encryption, right? So our ultimate goal is, whether it's hardenized Dockers and containers, or to create a brand new platform that will encrypt it end to end and then shard across the network. Yeah, I mean,
sharding is very important.
Yeah, sharding is important, and those are all things that we can do as we continue to kind of develop that platform out. So we're here. We want to be here eventually. So we'll get there.
Yeah, great question.
All right. So next question, I think Daniel already covered this question about the projects that is being worked on and for the decentralized hosting categories. I mean, you want to a little bit touch base on that? Is that okay?
I think we can go. I think
we've covered that.
Right. Okay. So next will be is it possible to make a VM image of the final setup and distribute it to other platforms with less config than an initial setup?
Yes, that is possible. I mean, you could create a VM image of pretty much anything at any step and allow that to be your image that people start from to get initially configured. We currently don't have that set up yet. But that is something that we could potentially do in the future for sure.
And then the next one to follow up on this one, I guess, is just to have a Docker image or a VM image for setting up a Flux node. Is that a possibility on that?
Yeah, we're looking at that, and actually, the ultimate goal would be to be a turnkey solution where I could see it as almost an image. You would image your VPS, and boom, you're ready to rock and roll. So I mean, way outside of my expertise, but I do know that there has been lots and lots of headway made, even in the scripting process for standing up these nodes. I mean, what Vultr has done with the UI and the UX is just phenomenal, and it's just going to keep getting better. I think we get to the point where, it will be a lot more turnkey on both the UI UX side of it, so the interface, and then on the back side as well for deployment, so rapid deployment.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. That's going to come. It exists currently on other platforms, or like if you were to build a container, you could probably just put it up on Docker and download that, and you're up and running. But things take time, especially with how complicated everything is for Flux. We want to make sure that that we do it correctly, so you're not just pulling down Docker containers that don't end up working. So for now, we got scripts.
All right. So next question is, would Flux be interested in working with other point-of-sale crypto solutions? Some crypto companies are providing payment terminals for buying stuff with a crypto debit card and so on.
Well, I can take this one. I mean, ultimately you want mass adoption of any platform. I look at us less like a currency. I don't even believe that we are a currency. There are other people that do currency models or, point of sale better than we do. But what we do is infrastructure. So utility-based asset, and that utility-based asset creates a demand for, resources. So as more individuals need that asset to develop their platforms, great for us. And we start to create these payment gateways that seamlessly moves between fiat, any fiat of choice, any crypto of choice, and our platform. So you're going to start to see those things be developed. So the ultimate goal is if Jeremy wants to stand up a Flux, something on Flux, he can do it in USD. It's simplistic. He goes through the process, and it's a bit more seamless. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
All right, so next question, that's for you, Dan. When new exchange listing?
It's always up to the exchanges. So we have been more. I will tell you this. You get NDAs in place and all this other stuff. We are more engaged with exchanges now than we've ever been in the history of the project. And our ultimate goal is to be on every major exchange there is. Hands down, period, end of story. Now, with that, we can only do what we can do with these exchanges. Like, we expanded our partnership with KuCoin. If you haven't checked out the 1 million Flux giveaway and what we're doing over there with the marketing and co-marketing and PR, great partner. Coin Metro, freaking fantastic, right? So, we already have some unbelievably good exchanges. Yes, would you like to see this asset on every single one? Of course, right? Of course. But you want to see it there for the right reason. And I've always said, when the time is right, people will say, we want to be listed on this exchange. No, they want to list us. So I think we're getting close to there. And as we continue to keep our marketing and PR blitz going, I think that proves to these larger exchanges we're a viable competitor to be in their platform. Hey, the other thing, check out what we just did with Rosetta and with Coinbase. People ask, does that mean you're going to get listed on Coinbase? Well, it sure as hell doesn't hurt that we're one of the projects that is doing the full API integration. So, I would imagine, they'll be looking at that, and we have had engagement talking with them about, maybe what that process looks like. So the steps that we have to take, they're slow at times. You'd like to see 3 more exchanges added tomorrow. Well, guess what? That's not going to happen. But we're going to take all the steps to get on all the biggest exchanges.
Love it.
All right, so last question. Recently, DeFi are hot. I see that Flux DeFi lendings and yield farming on Zelcore in Q4. Can we speed up the development? There is no need to support on Zelcore, and web pages first can attract more people to join us.
Well,
great question.
Yeah, and Jeremy can attest to this as well. We don't necessarily follow the industry trends. Otherwise, we would have been gone long ago, right? So it was ICOs, then it was IEOs, then it was and now it's DeFi. And don't get me wrong, I'm highly interested in DeFi and what some of the things, Nifties and some of these things, but there's still a lot of frothiness to it. So we're going to follow our roadmap. And if you look at our roadmap, there are some DeFi projects on there that are really, really good, legitimate DeFi pieces to the platform, lending and yield farming. And, some of these decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and Sushi and so on and so forth. KDA DEX is going to be a big one. They just announced that they're going to have fiat pairing on there. So it's going to be awesome. So I think in the end, I think that we cherry pick the pieces of DeFi, or really any particular ICOs at one time were just the craze, right? And then they became cancer. But the underlying technology of tokenizing a business, an asset, is amazing, and that's going to end up being, how I believe in the future companies will raise funds. I believe you'll see tokenized stocks.
100%.
Yeah.
That's going to be happening for sure.
Yep. And Jeremy, you and I have talked before about how the housing market, how opportunities on the housing market, or even cars, vehicles, custody and services, end-to-end pieces, asset tracking, you name it. That all was kind of born out of the frothiness of what was these ICO projects, and then you look at DeFi. Well, how was DeFi born? Well, if you go back to CryptoKitties. CryptoKitties sucked, but it laid the groundwork and the foundation for really what DeFi became.
Yeah. It also kind of showed us that Ethereum network can't handle anything.
No.
It trashed that network for a long time. Took up all the resources.
That's actually a question we skipped, and I want to go back to it. We have like a couple more minutes yet, and I'd like to get your input on this too, Jeremy. Is if Ethereum finally switches to proof of if is the big word, right?
If
in July, as they're claiming, besides mining, of course, that Flux network could take advantage of the GPU power that will be left without a home. Flux Nodes provide incredible computational resources. Is there a way to add GPU power to the equation other than mining? Might it be a dumb question? This is not a dumb question.
It's not a dumb question.
Fucking amazing question. It's awesome, right? Because it plays right into some of the plans that we have for the project. It might be a dumb question, but I'm not very knowledgeable. I don't want to just brainstorm, so let me ask that question. There will be a lot of lonely GPUs. Frogs, you want to go? You want to start that?
Yeah, sure. I can definitely jump in on that. So again, if Ethereum switches to proof of stake, which by the way, I love proof of stake. I'm a big fan over here. I'm a fanboy. There are going to be a lot of hardware out there. Yeah. A lot of hardware out there that's kind of just sitting around. Well, I mean, could we try to tie into those GPUs? Yes, we definitely could. Have we started on writing anything? No, that would have to be something that we would need to start on. Or even like a community member, writes a Dockerized application that figures out how to interact with everyone's GPUs if they're running idle, and starts some sort of mining progress that these nodes can make money on, and then launches it on Flux and takes advantage of the entire network, right? Like that's the thing about Flux is you don't have to wait for any of us to build an application to try to utilize. You can go and write something
absolutely
that interacts on the node and tries to utilize its resources, right? You're going to use them anyways, utilize those resources in an effective manner so that you could try to take advantage of those GPUs. For instance, not necessarily for mining, but I think when COVID was first like really big in the news, people started doing, I think it was like DNA splicing to try to figure out like how the COVID virus, how can we like create a vaccine quickly? And they were doing that by like taking DNA sequences and splitting them and then splitting those. And then they were trying to do that on GPUs. Well, I think that if we had Flux network up and running at that time effectively, someone could have utilized our network to run a Dockerized application to kind of solve these gene sequencing problems very quickly. Because before that, they had to set up all these nodes and ask people to run them. Well, what's better than to just add a Dockerized application that does it, and then instantly an entire network of thousands of nodes that have a lot of resources are at the disposal and helping you solve these math problems.
Well, we did that.
I think that'd be cool.
No, we really did that.
We did that?
Yes. That was the folding at home.
That
was a folding at home project. And to back you up, you were on another project working very diligently while that process was happening. No, we went from almost non-existent, right? To within the course of a couple of days, we had a Dockerized app up running, folding, and I think we were I don't quote me on this numbers, but we were in like the top 500, I believe, in terms of folding power, which is pretty impressive for a small decentralized computational network that we had at that time. I mean, it would be much more robust. We've grown a lot since then. But to expand on that question, first of all, I don't think ETH goes to proof of stake, and proof of work greater than proof of stake, and we can fight about that.
It can happen.
Yeah, let's have another roundabout about that. But I think in the end, right, Flux has always been a miner's project. Most of the individuals that are holding nodes or running nodes, they came to us through the mining side of the house. So our goal will be to harness that computational resources, and you could use it for rendering. One of the ideas that I love is, you have these deep fakes that are out there now. The rendering power on these GPUs for these deep fakes is exponential. So I don't know if you've ever watched a video about it or whatever, but even greater than that is the computational resources to prove that it's a fake. So if you could harness the network of 20,000 GPUs or whatever is on the Flux network that now can render these things much, much quicker, right? And it's spreading it across that if that's an app, right? So there's business opportunity for somebody, right? Become the company that actually takes those. We have a possible deep fake. Okay, give it to me. Render that thing out. Boom. It's guaranteed it's a fake, and this is why. That is where you see the node structure and the decentralized computational network working with the miners. So I think you could see those things working in tandem for sure. So don't want to give out all the business ideas. There's one for somebody.
So we got two
That's
requests
so funny.
there. I just want to keep those questions at the end. So there are two requests here. So the first request is, hello, I wanted to humbly request that the team consider making the Flux Nodes app available to all node operators, regardless of whether they have Zelcore Plus or not, I guess.
Well, we have an ability you can do what's called staking first service, where you have 5,000 Flux and you get Zelcore Plus for free. I will tell you there are going to be we are in the process of revamping UI UX integration on Flux. And I honestly think you could see some components coming from Plus over to the basic model, right? And I also can tell you that there are other seriously awesome shit coming to the Plus side. So, I don't think we can't make it free for all, because that is a revenue generation that keeps the project going and so on and so forth. But I think there's going to be a lot of focus on the basic being as deep as it can be.
Yeah.
All right, so another request is, would it be possible to add functionality to delete any unused wallets from the default wallets that come with Zelcore? He's talking specifically about extra wallets that comes in, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably a trunk question.
It shouldn't be too hard to hide it. I don't necessarily think deleting it. I mean, deleting it there's not really deleting, but you can hide them.
Never delete
so they're
wallets.
Not visually. Don't delete wallets, guys.
Don't delete wallets.
Bad.
Ever.
That is bad. Someone's going to delete something that has an absorbent amount of cryptocurrency in it, and it's just going to be bad.
Yeah, this guy. That's how I learned. That's why Zelcore was kind of born, was I screwed up, right? So, it happens, and we try to keep people from making those same mistakes. So, yeah, anytime you would delete something like that, I don't think it's a good idea. Just hide the asset, and you'll be fine.
And again, you're in charge of your own username and password and everything like that. That does not go anywhere. It does not leave your machine or anything. So even if you did delete it, we wouldn't even know, because nothing gets sent to us. You're in control of your own coin. So I think we could probably add some functionality to hide it. But as soon as you move to a new computer, you're gonna have to hide it again. That's just kind of the way it works. So maybe Tadeusz can answer a little bit more in depth in the next AMA, but
yep.
Yeah.
So the
All right.
one question I want to add in here. So what's that delete account in that Zelcore wallet? We see that delete account. Does that going to delete the account, or what's that for?
So that would probably delete it from the user, from the active users, like on that machine. So
Yeah, the
it's
device.
Just,
It's
you would
gonna
have
just
to re-register
device.
the account.
Okay,
Yeah.
so device. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
say you're using a device that maybe isn't yours, which I don't ever,
Or
don't do that.
you're trying to sell a device and you don't want to wipe it.
Yeah, and you want to delete it. I always recommend, back your shit up and then format so that your data doesn't get out there. But yeah, I mean, that would basically nuke that account. You'd have to re-register it and on that device.
Go add all your assets back.
Yeah.
Your coins are still safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it doesn't delete the user account. It just deletes that wallet, and not the. I would say just that.
No, it deletes the user account. You'd have to re-register. No, it doesn't delete the user account
permanently, right?
It's still in the cryptosphere, right? Because we're just pulling addresses from other blockchains, right? So it's still in the blockchain ethos of out there in the cryptosphere. It nukes it from the device, and then that way, if I want to sell my iPhone or something like that of that nature, you can do that.
Or give it to your kid. Like, you might not reformat.
Well, when I want to
give it to your kid. So go make sure you delete it so that, if they lose it, someone's not just like sifting through your data. If you're going to do that, just reformat.
It's kind of, it may seem weird to people that why would you do that? You just, if you're going to delete it, you would just redo the phone or redo the computer or whatever. But in third world emerging countries, and this is one of the reasons why this was instituted, is multiple individuals will use multiple platforms, right? So, you may have one general access computer for 40 people. So you really want your information to remain there? No. So you're going to use it. You're going to do what you have to do, and you nuke it when you're done. So there's a lot of different reasons. But one of those was, we want to look at how we can be accessed very simplistic through these developing countries. Yep. So.
Awesome. Was that the last question?
I think that's it. All right, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for the questions, guys.
Everybody jumping on. Thanks to Frogs. Thanks to the community and everybody today. It's been a fun day. So a couple good things. We had the marketing and PR this morning and the AMA this afternoon. Start building your questions back up. We'll do another AMA. Bring in Trunk next time. So make them real hard, because he loves to answer those real hard questions.
He's a smart guy.
He is. Yes, he is. We got some of the best developers, hands down, without a doubt, some of the best developers in the space. So I thank you all for coming, and